Welcome back to another podcast. Today's podcast, I wanted to introduce the guy that we interview. David Frampton has a friend called David Crowe, and David Crowe is now a very good friend of mine. He is one of the most interesting people I've met in a long time. The reason we got him on is because he is an avid taxi user, wouldn't use anything else. And these are the customers we are selling ourselves to. David has had a super interesting life, and we sat for an hour and a half listening to David just tell stories from the past of famous people he's worked with and met. It's super interesting. It contains lots and lots of famous people and stories about them, and some really quite funny ones, and I really enjoyed listening to him. I'd like to have him back and just tell more stories in the future, and hopefully that'll happen. So please have a listen to David Crowe. He is a super interesting person.
And Richard said it was the biggest knob I have ever seen in my life. And I'm looking at it, staring at it. And Mohammed sees him and says, Richard, have you got a problem? He says, no, Mohammed, I don't have a problem. But let me give you a tip. When that first bell goes against Foreman, hit him with that. Absolutely true. Oh, absolutely true.
And please like, subscribe, comment, and hit the notification bell for any future videos.
Martin Scorsese, are you?
No.
You're a very familiar face, David.
What, you seen me outside?
I saw you at Waterloo Stations a few times with a little
posters,
cup in the hand.
Yeah.
What the posters? The mighty David Crowe.
Ooh.
David Crowe's producer. What else? Tell us what you are, David.
First of all, I would like to tell you about that Muhammad Ali.
The Muhammad Ali photo that we got in Norway.
Photo there. I mean, I know it well. And in 1999, I come up with the idea of, because we knew Muhammad was going to be the sports personality of the 20th century, without any doubt. And I come up with the idea, because Muhammad, as you know, couldn't speak by then. And what I wanted to do, that's why it's called Muhammad Ali Through the Eyes of the World, is get well-known people talking about Muhammad. What did Muhammad mean to them? What did Muhammad do for them? And everybody said, I'm in. And I went over to Louisville. I was actually born in Owensboro, Kentucky. Still American citizen, sadly. In fact, Johnny Depp was born there as well, but that's...
In the same town.
Same town.
It's a very small town.
About 50,000 people.
Wow.
Is that the only connection with him?
I was going to say, thank God. Can you imagine?
He's a good bloke, isn't he, Johnny Depp?
Well, apparently so. I've never met him, but anyway, that's me. So I went to Louisville and met with Lonnie Ali, and I got the deal to do the documentary, and I did it through IMG, who are based in Chiswick on that big roundabout there.
Yeah.
Hogarth?
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to tell you this story, though. It's Richard Harris.
Oh, wow. Cracker.
Richard is, well, he's not with us anymore, but when I contacted him, he was at the Savoy. He had a suite there. And he said, I'm being asked to do things on people all the time, Burt Lancaster, Kirk Douglas, whatever, and I won't do it. He said, you know, I have one place that I go when I'm here, and that's the Coal Hole pub.
On the Strand.
On the Strand.
Yeah.
And he used to meet virtually every day with Peter O'Toole in there. But anyway, we were going to actually film him there, but the people in the pub said no. He was a huge Muhammad fan, and so we filmed Richard in the Savoy, his penthouse, his suite. And he was amazing. And at the end of it, he said, turn the cameras off. I want to tell you a story about Muhammad and me. And so we did that. And what it was, he had gone to New York to publicize a film he was in. And at the hotel, he gets a phone call one day. And this guy says, I'm Angelo Dundee, and I want you. And he said, you're taking the piss. He thought it was, his mates knew he was a big Muhammad fan. He said, you're taking the piss. He said, goodbye, hung up. Phone rings again. He said, look, I'm Angelo Dundee. He said, Mohammed is a huge fan of yours, and his favourite film is A Man Called Horse.
Yeah.
He's a big Western fan, Mohammed. He said, Mohammed wants you to come down to Deer Lake training place. And this is 6 weeks before he's going to go and fight George Foreman. And Foreman's going to kill him. There's no two ways about it. I think Mohammed was 16-1. Yeah, 16-1. There's no chance. And anyway, he said, okay, I'll come down. It's great. Can I bring my wife, Elizabeth? Yes, you can. So they go down. First morning, Mohammed's done the skipping. He's done the running. He's done the boxing. Takes off his sweat top. And Angelo said, Richard, you might want to ask Elizabeth to go outside now. Mohammed wants to shower down. So she goes out. Mohammed takes his sweatpants down. And Richard said, it was the biggest knob I have ever seen in my life. And I'm looking at it, staring at it. And Mohammed sees him and says, Richard, have you got a problem? He says, no, Mohammed, I don't have a problem. But let me give you a tip. When that first bell goes against Foreman, hit him with that. Absolutely true. Absolutely true.
Don't know. I thought he was probably finished by the 80s, wasn't he, boxing?
I think he fought Larry Holmes, didn't he? About 80? 81
yeah,
or something like that. His last fight.
Yeah, that's the last
80,
one.
When his last fight,
81,
he lost that to
82.
Larry Holmes, sadly. I think he way past his prime.
Oh, he's
yeah,
well gone.
Yeah,
to be honest. But
was that your only connection with Richard Harris, or?
We were trying to do a documentary about him, and he's a very not secretive, but he's, he doesn't like the press and all that. And in the end, it was a no. But an amazing man. I mean,
Richard Harris.
Yeah. The stories he was telling. You've probably heard this one. The coal hole was where he spent most of his time drinking, and he held court in there. And his main drinking mate, was Peter O'Toole. Yeah, and they would start at lunchtime, carry on in there till about 8 o'clock, and then go out for dinner, drink some wine and whatnot. And after a while, Peter O'Toole said, Richard, I can't keep doing this drinking. He said, it's going to kill me. He said, well, what are you going to do? He said, I'm going to stop. He said, it'll be ridiculous. He said, no, I'm stopping. I said, well, suit yourself. 2 days later, Harris goes into the coal hole, and there in the corner, in the usual seat, is Peter O'Toole, drinking. And you went over and he said, I thought you said you were stopping drinking, Peter. He said, look, I'm drinking under an assumed name today.
Two big characters there.
Yeah, I have a thingy one, Richard Harris story. Yeah. He was. I think I'm stealing it from the television, but it's an old one. He was sitting at a set of traffic lights in Ireland, and the car in front, the lights change to green and the car doesn't go, and then it changes to red again and the car doesn't stop. He stopped again. Then it changes to green again and the car doesn't go. And he leans out the window and says, "Is there any particular shade of green that you're waiting for?"
Where did you start working in David London?
My first proper job, I studied up in Manchester, doing a degree there, which I packed in after a year. Yeah, I packed it in, and because I'd got involved with the social secretary side of the university, and they used to book some incredible bands then, Jimi Hendrix and Stevie Wonder, and I mean, you name it, Manchester University would get it. I decided I wanted to be in a booking agency for bands, and that's how I got in. And I got to know Errol Brown from Hot Chocolate.
Oh, yeah.
Became a really good friend with Errol over the years. And he said, I'm looking for a new manager. I said, oh, fine. He said, well, would you be Hot Chocolate's manager? And I said, I can't believe this. Yeah, definitely. And I became their manager and met with Mickey at Morgan Studio, Mickey Mouse Morgan Studios in,
Maida Vale?
No, it was begins with a W. It's North London. God.
I think I knew Morgan Studios as well, now you're saying it, but...
Willesden, off Willesden High Road.
Yeah.
And I went there and they were recording Emma. And I met Mickey and got on well with him. And Emma came out and it went to number 3 in the charts. And I thought, no, really, I've arrived, you know. 3 months later, Mickey called me into Rack, and it was very small in Charles Street, just off Berkeley Square. And Rack had only just been going about 4 years, I think.
What is Rack?
Rack Records.
Oh, okay.
Charles Street.
Wasn't there a studios called that as well?
Rack Studios.
Which is in?
Going to be in, I don't know, Tin Pan Alley.
Shelbert Street? Where is it?
Shelbert Street.
Off of Prince Albert Road?
No, I don't know the studios.
There's a point there, isn't it?
Is it called Rack Studios?
Yeah.
I haven't pointed it.
It's big studios, one of the best.
Never pointed it.
No?
No, didn't know that one.
Well, so Mickey called me in and I sat down and I thought, this is going to be good. And he said, David, I like you, but you are without doubt the worst manager of a band I have ever come across. And I went, stood up. He said, where are you going? I said, well, obviously the meeting's over. He said, well, your management meeting's over, but I want to offer you a job here in marketing. We haven't got anyone to do that. And I said, yeah, okay, fine. So that's how I joined. I was sacked as a manager and employed as a marketing manager.
So I needed to meet you 40 years ago, basically, because back then I was starting in music.
Oh, okay.
And the word was that you had to know Mickey Most.
Yeah.
If you knew Mickey Most, that was it. You could get on.
Legend.
Yeah. So I didn't know Mickey Most, so so nothing happened.
What was he like, Mickey Most?
He was, I always called him my mentor because he was one of the kindest, nicest. You wouldn't think this guy was a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he built a beautiful house up in Totteridge. I forget what it was called now. And but you just wouldn't know, you know.
Mm.
And we used to drive from Charles Street to Hayes, the EMI factory out there, where then you pressed up singles and albums, you know, vinyl. And Mickey would take me, so I'd learn the business. And he told me some amazing stories. And I said one day, how did you get started in producing? And he said, well, I was in South Africa, which is where he met Chris, his wife. And I was doing a bit of producing there, and I was doing okay. But I didn't like South Africa, the way, you know, the black South Africans were treated, and that I couldn't do with that. The Afrikaners were hard people. Mm. So and Chris was South African. And anyway, they moved back to London, and he set up the English equivalent of the Everly Brothers. It was called the Most Brothers, and it was just copying. And they got on a big tour, because then you used to do about 10 acts and 30 days touring Britain, you know. And he got on, second from the bottom of this thing, and his Motown and all that sort of stuff. And he finished, there are 2 songs. He finished the second song, and he turned to Francis, his partner. He said, I want to see this band. He said, they're ugly. They got long hair. They're ugly. They're going to be loud. And he said, this is what I want to see. It was the Rolling Stones, who did two 2 songs. We're out of here. He said, it was the Watford Gaumont Theatre. He said, this is the first gig. He said, there's 29 to go. He said, not for us. He said, that is the future. He said, you're joking. I said, that's the future. He said, we're finished. He said, I'll pay you for the rest of the gigs. And I'm going to get the road manager. And the road manager was Peter. I'm not going to say his surname at the moment. Peter. And he went to Peter and he said, did you see that band? He said, they're unbelievable. He said, I know. He said, we're out of here now. We're not doing the rest of this tour. Peter went, oh, God. He said, no, I'm paying you. Don't worry about that. Only thing I'll ask you, if you ever see a band like that, because he was a road manager for, if you ever see a band like that, ring me and let me know. About 6 weeks go by, phone call goes, it's Peter, and he says, get the next train tomorrow up to Newcastle. He said, I've seen a band tonight in a pub, and they've got a residency there. He said, come up here. But you'll have to be quick because I know that I saw the head of A&R for Decca in the crowd. So get up here. So Peter, so he went up there. It was the Animals. Oh. And he said to Peter, and the guy from Decca and the guy from EMI came to the dressing room door, and Mickey turned up with a 1-pager contract to do 2 singles with him. And he said to Peter, stand there. Peter was a big man. I knew Peter, big guy. He said, stand there and don't let anyone come in till I open that door. And he got the Eric Burden and Chaz Chandler and all that to sign it. And he said, I want to do this track, the House of the Rising Sun one. And they said, fine, okay. Actually recorded it in an 8-track studio in Waterloo Arches. There's a studio there, or was then. And Mickey recorded it. 2 days later, he had it mixed. They came down, recorded it, had it mixed, took it into EMI. Roy Featherston said, I want this. I'll have this. He said, don't move from that chair. He said, I'll get the legals sorted. I don't want you to leave it. Mickey said, I want some money. He said, oh, you'll get some money, okay, but don't move. And he said, oh, how much money do you want, by the way? He said, £2,000. Well, in 63 or whatever it was, that was a lot of money, So he gets the cash, signs it, producer agreement, giving him 4%, and he gave the Animals 2%.
He got 4% of the taking, and the Animals only got 2.
He gave them 2 of his.
Oh, 2 of his 4.
Yeah, and I said that wasn't a very good deal, was it? He said no, it wasn't. It was crap, but it was my first time, And he said, so I met Peter in a pub, in Wardour Street, the Ship, and he met Peter anyway. And he gave him a couple of £100 and said, thanks for that. Can I do anything for you? He said, well, no, it's 200 quid will keep me going for a while. But I will ask you, if I ever come across a band that I can manage and you would produce it, he said, that's not a problem. This Peter, his name was Peter Grant, who was Led Zeppelin's manager.
At that time or afterwards?
No, they weren't formed then. But it was Peter Grant, who was a fearsome man. And again, months go past, and he turned up at the office and had a cassette. They had an office in Oxford Street above the 100 Club.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they had an office there, again, this size, 4 people. It was, amazing. And he turned up with this cassette, and the singer was outrageously good. And Mickey said, yeah, I'll produce this. What's the band like? He says, I ain't got one. He said, so you got a singer? He said, yeah. It was Robert Plant. And Mickey said, well, hang on a minute. I've got session musician people I use all the time. Jimmy Page, he's good. The drummer, but Mickey put the band together.
So Mickey Most put Led Zeppelin together.
Mickey put Zeppelin together and put the money up for them to start touring. And, of course, the rest is history.
Yeah.
They were the biggest selling rock band on the planet for years and years.
Yeah. So prior to this, basically, he put the band together with just the singer. They had no songs. That the whole band and everything was created afterwards.
Robert
was writing songs.
Was writing stuff, and he, to be honest, was the main. Jimmy Page did as well a bit, but he was more of a guitarist and all that. But Mickey put it together.
John Bonham, was that the name? Bonzo?
John Bonham, that's it.
Oh, John Bonham.
Obviously a name like Bonzo.
Yeah. Well, they did a YouTube thing the other day with Zeppelin, and they were in the audience of a concert, and the woman and the man on stage, I think, sing Stairway to Heaven. I think it was Stairway to Heaven. Anyway, Robert Plant is in the audience just crying.
Oh, really?
With the rendition that this band does. They just sit there and they just...
Well, standing next to Robert at the Dominion Theatre, I put together 4 double albums, a history of the Marquee Club in Wardour Street.
Yeah.
And I put that together, made a donation to the Prince's Trust. Duran Duran, Dire Straits, I can't remember, there's quite a few of them. And after, we were all standing backstage. I think his name was Peter Smith, that was the chairman of the Prince's Trust. He had us all lined up, and I was standing next to Peter Grant. And Prince Charles was brought over, and his inquiry would say, Smith would say, this is Dave Crowe, and he's made a contribution to the Prince's Trust. Prince Charles said, marvellous, marvellous. He said, it's very kind of you, David. I said, thank you for saying that. He said, I have to say, one of the Dire Straits boys gave me, what is it again? And they said, it's a CD, sir. And it's a CD. And he says, I don't have the apparatus to play it. I said, well, look. I said, you're in the right street. You're in Tottenham Court Road. I said, send your man out. And he said, send my man out. No, I can't do that. I said, Plant next to me, he says, sir, he said, I will have the best equipment sent to Highgrove for you to listen to that disc. And he said, if you don't mind, I'll put one of mine in as well. And he said, no, please do. But yeah, that was the
only time you met Charles, or what?
Yeah. He steered clear of me after that.
What other groups, David, anything to do with I'll never meet?
Well, it's mainly the rock ones, obviously. Susie was Hot Chocolate. They were great guys. Smokey, they were good. Susie Quattro, she was and is a lovely person. I mean, she is not. I mean, she's from Motown. She's from...
she's American, isn't she?
Yeah,
but she was big here. I don't know if... Was she as big in America as she was here?
No. Mickey was in Motown Studios, which is very, very, very small. I've been there. And he was there with... Oh, he died recently. The
Phil Spector?
No, the...
Susie and the Benches?
No, there's a famous English guitarist. Bloody hell, I did a documentary with him in Clapton.
Jeff Beck.
Mickey was there. They were doing an album. And they'd gone out to this club one night, and the band was the Quattros. Suze was playing bass, and Mickey said, she's got a real buzz about her, She's only 18. real buzz about her. And he met after and talked to Suze and said, my name is Mickey Most, I'm from London. She said, I know of you. And he said, well, look, you know, if you ever come to London and you're looking for, she said, when can I fly? He said, well, your dad's not even knows about it. And she said, well, let's talk to him. They did. And he said, Suze, the father said, if you want to go to London and this guy's going to look after you, fine. Well, he put her in a bedsit. Mickey put her in a bedsit in Cromwell Road. And for 2 years, he had her practicing and write. Susie couldn't really write. Mickey then bumped into in Germain Street, that
German Street.
Tramps Club, yeah.
That used to be Mickey's local, you know.
Right.
And he met Nicky Chen, who was, his family was the Lex Group, Volvo Cars. And they owned that big hotel in Sloane Square. It's now the Jumeirah. The waiter that was serving Mickey and Nicky Chen was earwigging what was going on. And he said, I'm a writer. And Nicky Chen said, well, great, fine, give me another whiskey. And he came back. He said, no, I write pop songs. And Mickey is a pop song maniac. Mm-hmm. He said, well, come into my office. And Nicky Chen said, well, I'm part of this. I introduced him. And he said, oh, okay. And the waiter was an Australian guy, Mike Chapman. So it's Mike Chapman who became one of the, after Mickey, one of the best pop producers. Sweet, Mud, Blondie.
Shwaddy Waddy?
No, he never produced them. But yeah, they started writing songs for Susie. Doublegate Drive.
I was trying to think of the bloody name of that one.
Number ones these were.
Yeah.
And it went on for years. And can I tell you a story about me and Susie?
Oh, is it?
Oh, no.
Is it explicit?
No, it's not.
I don't want to read it.
Hopefully it is, yeah.
Yeah.
No. No, Susie's not like that. What I used to do is take her and her then husband, Len Tuckey, who was the lead guitarist in the Quattro band, and I'd take them to the commercial radio stations, which had just started up. There's Capitol here, Birmingham, BMRB, I forget. One was in Sheffield. So I would drive them, and when I'd leave the accountant at RAC, Ronnie would give me cash to take. And it was only away a few days. And he gave me £500 cash in an envelope, which I stuck in my back pocket, my jeans back pocket. We did Birmingham, and then we went across to Sheffield, the Hallam Towers Hotel. And when Len and I went into the bar about 6 o'clock, it was packed with guys, absolutely packed. All the tables were taken, and we were standing in the bar. And I said to the barman, I said, "What's all this?" He said, "Oh, it's the World Badminton Championships here in Sheffield, and these are the players. They start tomorrow." And okay. And it was packed, and, you know, people were bumping into you, and, you know, they were only drinking, like, you know, orange juice or half a bitter or something like that. They weren't really drinking, but they were just talking to each other. And a few of them recognized Len Tuckey, and they'd come over and said, "Can we talk?" and all that. But, you know, you're being bumped all the time. Anyway, they clear off after about 2 hours. Len and I stayed we were the last ones to leave the bar. Went upstairs, and all I remember, I took my jeans off and I threw them over the back of a chair. Wake up in the morning, it was absolutely headache, murder. And I was arranging to meet Len for breakfast, and I thought, I can't do this. But I went down. I said to reception, "Can I have the bill for Quattro and me. They do the bill, and back pocket, no money. The envelope's gone. I said, get the manager out here. Bring the manager out. He said, what's the problem? I said, one of these badminton players that you've got staying here lifted my money. It's 500 quid. 500 pounds? I said, yeah, 500 pounds. He said, let me get the police. Stay here. Straight away, two detective sergeants pitch up. And what's the problem? I said, there must have been 50, 60 guys last night. One of them is pickpocketed my money. Yeah, okay. So he turned to the manager and said, give me a room. And I want you to ring each room and get that person down here. And I'll tell you when to do it. But I want them all to come down here because I'm going to interview them. And as I went out the door, Len Tucky's there. And he said, what's going on? I said, someone nicked 500 quid. He said, you're joking. I said, I'm not. He said, well, look, we can't hang about. He said, look, I'll pay for everything. I said, no. I said, Len, this is the principle. Someone has taken this money. Mm. And he said, yeah, you're right. Now, you sure you checked everywhere, drawers and all that? I said, yeah. He said, go and do it again. So I went upstairs, looked at the bed, the drawers and everything. Nah, nothing there. And as I was going out, I just looked to the right. And I thought, I put my jeans there. And I looked behind the chair, and between the thing at the bottom of the floor,
the
skirting board, in between there was the money in the envelope. Oh, my God.
Oh.
So I had to go downstairs, and I said, Len, I said, I've got it. He said, I knew. Right, leave it with me. And he went in and spoke to the two policemen. He said, don't get anyone down. He said, the idiot has found his money. It was upstairs. Sorry about this. The police were furious. And he said, look, I'll bring my wife in a minute. And this police guy didn't know Len Tucky. So he said, don't make it worse. Don't say you're bringing your wife in. He said, it's Susie Quattro. Oh, my God, brilliant. So Suze goes in, signs, autographs to the kids and all that sort of thing. And I got out. Now, can I continue the story?
Yeah, go on.
The next place we went to was Tyne Tees TV. And they were interviewing loads of people. It was after the 6 o'clock news. And one of the people being interviewed, her name was, I think, something like Beverly Nicholson. She had a book called Spin, Spin, Spin. She won 200,000 on the pools.
Yeah, the pools winner with the pink Cadillac.
That's it.
Yeah.
It was her. And the interviewer was saying to her, well, how did you spend all this money? I mean, 200,000 doesn't sound a lot, but 69 or whatever it was, a lot of money.
I think 14,000 would have bought you a house, wouldn't it?
Easy.
Easy.
Yeah, easy.
Easy.
1970, 69, brought 2,000 or something.
Yeah, I mean,
1,500.
I think 60s, early 60s, 3,000 would have bought you a house.
I would think so.
Yeah.
I would think so, yeah.
So, yeah, loads of dough.
Yeah, well, what did you spend it on? And she said, drink and drugs. She owned up. Terrible that she lost all the money like that, but, she had a book and it did very well, actually. Susie is the last on after her. And Beverly's still sitting on the sofa. And, Susie Quattro, this, that, and the other, and said, now, Susie, have you had trouble with drinking drugs? And Susie was furious. She said, no. She said, I'm not into that. And she wasn't. I'm not into that. But he wouldn't give up, this guy. He said, well, friends of yours in the record business must be on drinking. And she said, well, yes, they are. It's nothing to do with me. Mm-hmm. They don't ask my permission. It's up to them. And anyway, this carries on. So we leave there and go to the hotel. And Susie and I are standing at the bar. Susie was just having a glass of wine. And I was on my second pint of Newcastle Brown, I think. This lady came up, youngish lady. She said to Susie, "Can I have your autograph?" And I just picked it up. I said, "How dare you? Susie will not be giving you that." Susie said, "What are you on about? She's just asked you for an ounce of grass." That's what I thought she said. She said, "Can I have your autograph?
Can I have an ounce of grass?"
Can I have an ounce of grass?
Yeah. Give her the ounce of grass.
Because I thought, she'd seen Susie on the TV talking about drugs.
Yeah.
So, hell let loose.
Yeah.
Quite rightly so.
How much was an ounce of grass back then?
I don't know. I don't know.
And you got me thinking as well, the 200,000 on drink and drugs back then.
Actually,
my
immense.
goodness.
Actually immense.
Yeah.
I mean, you say it's a shame she lost it, but it must have been a hell of a party.
That is, one.
That's a hell of a party now, never mind.
You'd be dead, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well, roughly how long would you say it took her to do that 200 grand? Do you remember?
I think it's about 5 years.
You've seen the movie, Dave, haven't you?
40 grand a year, and that's probably 10 times the price of a house.
Yeah,
So if you brought it up now, what's the average house? 500,000-600,000, something like that. You wouldn't get much for that, would you? But you get something in suburbia for that, wouldn't you?
Well, was drugs much more expensive back
So
then?
That's probably equivalent of something like 6 to 10 million now. Is it not?
I don't know. It just seems an absolute fortune that if you'd done that much drinking drugs, I think you'd be dead.
Mm. Well, she bought a house. She bought
the car.
The car. She bought an E-Type as well.
Oh, okay. Probably friends giving money. They waste it. They squander it, don't they?
She was saying every night was a party at my house.
Mm.
People would turn up, food, wine.
Yeah.
No one had to pay anything.
What? Do you still know Susie?
Yeah, occasionally we have a chat, and she's still working.
Mm.
I mean, it's incredible.
Tell her I had a crush on her.
You did.
Oh,
You and half the country, though, isn't it?
Yeah, did they? I mean, she was a little bit tomboyish as well, wasn't she? She had a thing about her. But yeah, I thought she was great.
It was Mickey that got her to dress in black
Leather.
As I say, she's not big time. She, you get some of these Elton John and people like that. I've met. They're not nice people.
Mm.
Sue's she's not changed from the young person that arrived from Detroit.
Yeah. How old's she now, Mick?
75.
Oh, yeah. She's going to be the same age as my mum and dad, roughly.
So
Same age as you, Dave.
Yeah.
I thought you was that, Dave.
Yeah. No, I'm getting confused.
She came into my office one day, and all she said was, "Don't book me anything during this month." She never said why. She said, "I'm going to be in the States." I assumed she was going to see her family, She was Leather Trocadero in Happy Days, Fonzie's sister. Do you remember Happy Days?
Yeah, I love Happy Days.
Of course.
Yeah.
I'll have to watch it now. I'll Google it to see the episode.
She was in it a few times, and she was really good, but she never said a word. It was not this big, I'm flying to the States and I'm going to be Fonz's sister and all that. I mean, Fonzie was really...
Henry Winkler.
Yeah.
It was massive at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was then, wasn't it?
But he was cool as well. I had the black leather jacket with the high collar.
Okay, well, you thought you was the
I thought the Fonz was the coolest. I mean, it was for me, but I'm younger than all of you, so...
But as I say, that's Sue. She's, she's not big-headed or anything,
What other bands they have on the rack?
Smokey, Mud.
Mud.
Yeah.
Smokey Robinson.
No.
Smokey and the Bandit.
Smokey in the back room.
There's Smokey, just Smokey, but they were from Leeds in Yorkshire.
I think I remember those, yeah.
They had a lot of hits. Again, it was Chinny Chap that wrote and produced. Mud, their biggest hit was Lonely This Christmas.
Yeah.
And
did they do Tiger Feet as well, or was that... Mud and Shawaddy Waddy at the time were kind of a competitive bands for that kind of rock and roll
that's it, yeah.
genre.
They were, Shiwadi Wadi was with Bell Records next door to us in Charles Street. So you had Rack Records at number 2, and number 4 to 6 was Bell Records. And then the pub on the corner, the Running Footman, which is where I spent most of my time.
The longest named pub in the country? It's the name of the pub is I Am the One and Only Running Footman.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh.
Yeah.
You spent all this time in it and didn't know that?
No. Well, I was always drunk in there. So.
What brewery?
I couldn't read.
What was the brewery? Do you remember that?
Got to be Chariton's.
Yeah, I thought you were about to know that, but you wouldn't know the full name. That's what I was trying to say.
Is it? Do you think it's Chariton's?
I don't know. Never up at Abbey Road Studios?
Oh, I spent a lot of time there.
Did you?
Oh, yeah. The Mickey used to have all his singles and albums cut there. A guy called Chris Webb. I would take up the 2-inch tape and he would convert it into a vinyl white label. And I'd bring him back. And, when there are a lot.
In a black cab?
Funny enough, that's the only way I travel, Dave.
Yeah.
It's why he's
It is the only way to
Well, I only
travel.
met him this morning, you know.
You just picked him up in the cab?
Yeah, I picked him up in Pimlico and he was going to Borough Market.
Did he flag you down?
Yeah, and the stories were interesting. I just said, have you got 10 minutes?
Yeah. Was he wobbly on his feet, though?
Yeah.
Always be careful when they're wobbly on their feet.
Mm.
You don't live in Dolphin Square, do you?
Used to.
I don't know. Have you ever been from the Houses of Parliament to Dolphin Square in a cab?
Quite a few times.
I think I've picked you up.
No.
I think I've picked you up. I have. As soon as you walked in, there was familiarity. But have I told you my Dolphin Square story? So at the Houses of Parliament, the yellow light would come on as you come across Westminster Bridge. You know that there are people waiting to get in cabs. So you'd swing straight into the gate and you sit there. The policeman would be there and they'd sling some old drunk in the cab.
Yeah.
And generally, if they was Conservative, they went Dolphin Square. And if they were Labour, they would go over to Kennington. Courtney Square, I think it's called, around there. And I'm pretty sure it was you now.
Well,
An old drunk, you mean?
Well, you was drunk, definitely drunk, and you said, I'm going to Dolphin Square. This would be nearly 25, 30 years ago.
20.
In that realm.
Yeah.
We get to Dolphin Square, and...
I fell out.
Yeah, you fell out. I had to get out the cab. I parked the cab up, and I went into Dolphin Square, and I mean, it wasn't you. It'd be amazing if it was. But I took you up to the apartment. I opened the door. I took you in. I laid you. It was you. I took this person in, laid them on the bed. I took the money for the fare from their wallet, put them down, walked out the door, and I remember thinking, this Dolphin Square's a bit of a shithole. It was a bit.
It is. It was. I lived, Caroline, as you know, and I had a house opposite Goldsmiths on Lewisham Road.
Yep.
We bought, it was a 4-story.
In big townhouses.
Yeah. And Caroline redecorated. It was used by, Goldsmiths College for seminars and all that sort of thing. It was in a dreadful state, and Caroline converted it over 5 years into I don't think you saw that, did you?
No, only from the pub outside, never inside.
Oh, okay. Well, wouldn't invite you in.
Riff raff.
Yeah, and honestly, it took 5 years, and she did every single floor. There was no kitchens in it. There was just a loo on each floor. That's all it was. And one night, we were having dinner, and she said, it's time to move. What? She said, it's time to move. And we bought it in an auction for 240,000, I think. You know, it took about 200 to do it up. But anyway, we moved from there. This was 2005 to Dolphin Square. And only because a friend of ours, he's now Lord Rowlands, but it's he was Ted Rowlands. He was the longest serving Labour MP for Merthyr Tydfil. And he said, come Dolphin Square until you find out what you want to do. And we moved back to the country then after that. but we were there for a bit. And I'm mentioning this because last year there was a book put out, something like The Crimes or the Criminals of Dolphin Square. And you will not believe, it's a fantastic book. And I'm actually talking with the writer at the moment about doing a series about it. But, I mean, Mandy Rice Davis, Christine Keeler, Sid James and Barbara Windsor had an affair there.
It's all happened at Dolphin Square.
Yeah.
Including people going through people's wallets.
Yeah. I you
that
know
was
me,
the
Dave.
worst bit.
I only took the right money.
Yeah.
I would never take.
They're
anything.
doing it up now.
Yeah, I imagine it's going to be prime real estate. It's got to be.
Oh, it's
prime
got to
real
be.
estate.
It's now owned by AXA,
Yeah.
the French insurance company,
Yeah.
and they're completely.
Well, they own the lease, or what they?
They own freehold.
Yeah.
They bought the lot
Yeah.
quite cheaply as well for about 850,000. Sorry, 800. That would be cheap.
Yeah, 850 million.
850 million.
There's a program on at the moment called The Only Murders in the Building with Steve Martin and another guy called Martin, and I forget the woman's name. But it's set in New York in a very similar constructed
Right.
place that is Dolphin Square, but a New York version. And it's obviously a very famous building. But that kind of community, it's a community square of flats. It's fairly unique.
Yeah.
Do you know anywhere else that would be similar? That is certainly the age-wise,
What,
position-wise.
flat square building like that? It's like there's lots of them.
What a square?
Guinness House, like Guinness Trust, things like that. Yeah, there's the Gilbert House and things like that. But yeah, there's lots of places like that around.
No, what the Guinness Trust places?
Yeah, there's lots of them in the square like that, aren't they? Or they're hollow, if you like. It's under the facade. You go inside, there's some sort of courtyard.
Yeah, there'd be a courtyard. I'm foreseeing it as being a bit different, Dave. I think I don't know what you're talking about.
No, it's a big. I think it's an acre and a half or something.
Yeah, it's big. Well, we used to have to learn the names of every block. So, and I forget them now, but were they named after sailors? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cook must be one of them.
No, Nelson. I can't remember.
Yeah, they were. We had to learn the names of them anyway to know which block we were sitting down on,
Okay.
and they haven't asked them for years. What's that?
You mean that's a building? It's just an outside.
That's the Dolphin Square, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the name of the buildings?
Do you remember any?
I just remember that they were sailors and
Nelson,
Randolph?
Drake,
Rayleigh, Drake,
Drake, yeah.
Howard,
Yeah, I knew them all.
Yeah.
Keys, Collingwood.
The good old days. When I went there, so it wouldn't have been you because it would have been in the mid-90s, 96, 97. I would have done that kind of job.
Been me.
And I remember that it was very stale smelling. And it was still very original decor, like oak veneers kind of things everywhere, and panels and paneling. Yeah. It was interesting. It was a bit shocking that it wasn't as modern as I would have expected. And I think he was a lord that I took there that night.
Probably would be, yeah.
Yeah, and he was blistered.
Yeah.
Any other stories or gossips you think of?
What about the Beatles? Did you have any contact with the Beatles?
I did. It was called Working Class Hero. It was John Lennon. It was 25 years after
They split?
No, after he was shot.
Oh, so he was shot in what, 1980?
Yeah, it was 1980.
Yeah, so it would have been 2005.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
yeah.
The man who shot him was called Chapman, wasn't it?
I don't remember that bit.
Chapman.
I don't remember.
Yes,
that
it
bit.
was. And I had the meeting because I'd done the world of Nat King Cole for BBC and EMI and some other stuff.
Well, like documentaries,
Yeah,
the life stories.
Yeah.
I like Nat King Cole.
Oh, well, we're doing a film. Hopefully it's going to start this end of this year
Yeah.
called Unforgettable. It's about the life of Nat and Natalie. But because Nat is the 1940s and 50s and 60s, and Natalie is 70s, 80s, 90s. You got two different time scales.
Yeah.
And the only thing I could think of was to link it was the duet that Natalie did with her father
dad, yeah.
in 1991 called Unforgettable.
Mm.
So that was the link. But it was fascinating because Yoko had seen it. She wanted to see some of the work, and EMI, it was then EMI, got her the copy, and she said, get him in. So I flew to New York and went to the Dakota building. And they're on the 3rd floor. Oh, when John was alive. Massive area on the 3rd floor, right on the corner. And overlooks Central Park.
Mm.
And we had the meeting, and in her kitchen was a dining table that would seat 20 people, you know. And it almost did have 20 with her lawyers. I mean, she's absolutely...
She's crackers, isn't she?
Hard, yeah. Hard as nails. And she just... And she's sitting like where David is, and I'm here. And she said, we've been there about an hour. And she said, you can go now. I said, oh, well, thank you for your time, Yoko. And look forward to hearing from you. And she said, you will. And I walked out with Mike Heatley, who's the vice president of EMI. And we had to take our shoes off when we walked in.
Mm.
And there's big, thick carpet. Massive doors and all that. And
Was this her apartment?
this is the Dakota buildings where her and
John lived.
John lived. Massive. And we're walking along, and I got my briefcase like that. And I'm not allowed to swear, am I?
Yeah, go on.
Walking along, and I turned to Mike, and I've known Mike for years. I said, Mike, this is one place, isn't it? And this voice behind me said, oh, I'm glad you like it. And I turned around, and it was Yoko
Following you.
following us out. And I was blushing. I said, so I'm sorry, Yoko. And she's laughing. She said, no, John would be happy that you like this as well. She said, follow me. And on the corner, there's this massive, and it looks out over Strawberry Fields, which is named after Strawberry Fields Forever in Liverpool. And there's in the corner is the white piano that her and John set out playing Imagine.
Yeah.
And she said, I went, oh, wow. She said, sit down. Sit there. I said, Yoko, I won't. I wouldn't do that. She said, Ken, if you want. I said, no, I wouldn't feel comfortable. And she smiled again. She said, come over here. And the window was looking out over the strawberry fields. And she threw me out. No, she didn't.
Pushed out the window.
She said, every 8th of December, this is when John was shot. I think it was the 8th or the 9th. She said, I'm always here, and I'm always at this window. And she said, it's incredible, the number of people that fill this area.
Yeah.
She said it's thousands of people come, and they bring flowers.
Mm. Every anniversary.
Yeah. She said it's absolutely amazing.
Mm.
It was a sad loss, wasn't it? That was to the world.
Oh, it's just
Sad loss.
I don't mean to sort of thing. I do love John Lennon, but when I was told he was been shot, I was at school, and my mate Wayne Rowland said to me, "Lennon's been shot." I thought he was talking about Lenin and Stalin.
I knew that.
Yeah.
No, it was. I think what actually got me the deal, because everyone was trying to get it.
Mm.
You know, Warner's and everybody, and I think what got it for me is when I was in Abbey Road. I left Manchester, and I briefly mismanaged a band called Barclay James Harvest, and they were recording in Studio 2 at Abbey Road, and the Beatles were in Studio One, so it must have been Abbey Road. There was a orchestral bit or something, and I left the band and was sitting in reception. It was just a little settee. A guy comes out, and sits down next to me, and said, "What do you?" He had a Liverpudlian accent. I didn't know the Beatles were there, by the way. Liverpudlian accent, and he said, "What do you hear?" I said, "With a band from Manchester, Barclay James Harvest." He went, "Oh, okay." And we were just chatting, and I said, "You're obviously from Liverpool." And he went, yeah. He said, "I get down here quite a bit." It didn't say who he was or anything. Chatting about football. I was talking about Man United, Man City. He was talking about Liverpool. And Lennon came out with Yoko. And this was just before the split, the Beatles split. And I always remember Yoko was wearing a fake fur coat, white, very
shorts,
skirt, but very short, and black boots. And I was looking at it and I'm thinking, why is he with you? You know, I mean, John Lennon could have had anyone. And I didn't say this to her, by the way.
She'll know now. She watches our podcast.
I thought that might be the case. But we, in this meeting at the Dakota building, her apartment, I could think it was drifting. I'm not going to get this because she was asking questions. She said, "You strike me as a producer that reads the Sun newspaper." I said, "Really?" She said, "Yes, that's what I think." I said, "Well, actually, I read the Sunday Times only. I read one paper a week, and it's that one. And it gives me all the information I need about what has happened and what's going to happen." She went, oh, okay, thanks for that. I said, "Let me tell you another story." And then I told her about meeting her and John at Abbey Road. And she said, "Do you know, I have still got that jacket and that
skirt,
leather skirt." I said, "No." She said, "Yeah, no, I have." I said, "Oh, okay." And that was it. And I think that's what got it, that she could relate to John and someone that had actually met him. Sorry, I didn't tell you that. So John and Yoko come out, and they come over, and he said, "Mal, we're ready to go." And he says, "I am sorry, my name is John Lennon, and this is Yoko." And I said, "I've come across you before." But it was Mal Evans, the Beatles roadie, that I was sat next to, and I didn't know. You know.
Did you ever go to the Whiskey A Go Go?
No.
Because
Mickey did.
The WAG Club and the Marquee Club were both open still when I did the Knowledge. Do you know them both?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, but Marquee would have been open when you was young, but not when your cabbing days. Did you do the Marquee?
No.
Because the Marquee moved to Charing Cross Road, I think, for a while.
Yeah, it was. I think they were called Barbara and Ben Pennington or something that owned them. But they would always love to tell the story that Phil Collins used to always be first in the queue to get in.
What, before he was anybody?
Before he was anyone. And would go up to the bands and say, if you ever need a drummer, let me know. And he was like, "I am the drummer," you know. So, sorry. Fair enough. The history of that club is extraordinary. Was extraordinary. Yeah. I mean, anyone that was anybody except the Beatles.
They didn't play there?
They never played there.
I know U2 played there.
Yeah.
I mean, any bands that came through, that was the springboard, wasn't it? You were playing the Marquee, and then you were into the big time. What happened to the bands that kind of... Was it a disaster for the bands that didn't make it in terms of finances? Because you get invested in, don't you? And then...
Yeah, I mean, you're actually talking to the person who was a wizard at not making money for bands.
It was your speciality.
It was my speciality. If you don't want to be rich, you found the man.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think so. You had a love of music early on. You've not had a career in it, but you still love music.
Would you say as well, I mean, looking at it now, the whole music industry, the whole music world has gone.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever it is now is not what it was. No. There's no, it's very much more manufactured. Back in the 80s and 90s, probably was coming towards the end, the early 2000s, you would go and see bands, and those bands would be pre-famous and then maybe breaking through with something. But as the 2000s moved on, there's kind of...
Well, I was still... Oh, sorry. I was still in the... connected to the music business by doing the documentaries. But I got into that side of it. I was still mismanaging people.
Yeah.
But I came up with an idea. I'd been to the States, and there was a big supermarket. And as I was going out, this guy's giving a magazine. I said, no, I don't want one. He said, it's free. So, well, I'll have it. That's the first time I'd seen a free magazine. And when I got back to London, I, for some reason, kept this magazine. And I thought, because I was in marketing at RAC. And when I joined, the Melody Maker was selling 250,000 copies a week.
Yeah.
The NME was selling over 200,000 a week. When I left RAC in 84 or something, I was booking ads for our bands cheaply because the Melody Maker was only selling 50,000 a week. And the NME was only selling 35 a week. And I kept thinking to myself, where have these people gone? I mean, they're not all dead, where do they get their information from? And then it could only really be Radio 1.
Yeah.
And Capital had just started, Capital Radio and things like that. But then I thought, hang on a minute, what about a free magazine? So I went to Woolworths, a guy called Paddy Toomey in Marylebone High Road or wherever it was. It was a Woolworths building.
Oh, Marylebone Road.
A big white building. I went to see Paddy, and he was an Irishman, hard as nails. He said, what are you here to waste my time for? And I put this magazine on. He said, I'm not interested in that. I said, Paddy, you don't call me Paddy. You call me Mr. Toomey. I said, sorry, Mr. Toomey. I said, the idea is that this is all information on new singles and mainly albums that are coming out the next month. And then if there's films and videos, which was big business then, it would be that. And he said, well, let me speak to, it's not a bad idea. He said, let me speak to the marketing director, which he did, and I got it. And did 500,000 magazines a month, a month, 500,000. And the other big high street retailer was W.H. Smith's. So after it'd been going for just over a year, I went to Smith's in Swindon and said, what about this? And they said, well, we checked you out. We know you're doing Woolworths. I said, yeah. He said, well, if we give you our information, they get it. They know what we're doing. I said, no, it don't work like that. They'll never know what albums you're going to be pushing and all that. You keep it separate. So I got that. And that was 250,000 a month. So from nothing, I had 750,000 free magazines going out. And BBC Worldwide, it was actually BBC Enterprises then, but BBC Worldwide came in and bought my company. It was, a fair bit at the beginning, but it was over 5 years, and they were going to buy back in years 3, 4, and 5 my 49% of shares, I couldn't last a year there at the BBC. Absolutely. And I don't mind if this goes out.
Yeah.
Absolutely appalling.
Yeah. Working for the BBC.
Oh,
yeah.
I resigned after a year. I said, nah, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And they said, the deal is finished. I said, you're not kidding, it's finished. Good luck.
Yeah.
And they managed to trash the magazines within about 18 months.
Yeah, you'll have to come back and talk again.
Dave, I'm not being funny. I'm just sat here riveted. I was really just listening. It was great.
Well,
I'm going to tell one last thing as well.
Go on,
I want to say one last thing. 10 years ago or so, David said to me, I was only joking when I said, I just met him this morning. 10 years ago, he said to me, would you fancy going travelling? Anyway, long story short, we're going out the Far East, and we're in Thailand at one point. And we met up with an Australian friend of ours who'd built an apartment complex.
Oh, yeah.
And he's a big guy. Yeah. And he's walking in front of me, and I'm 2.5 stone, or 40 pound heavier than I am now. So I was 18 stone. I'm walking behind him. And David, who's smaller, is walking behind. We're going, as we walk in,
like
he turns to the right. I turn to the right. David is looking to the left at the sunset. There's all people here at the sunset
over
around
the
pool, and this big open. He's selling these apartments and everything. This complex. He keeps walking straight. We've turned to the right. He walks fully clothed and everything, dressed straight into a swimming pool in front of everyone. And I turn around and he's flapping and flapping. The arms are going, and the water's going, Dave, save me, save me. I went, stand up, you idiot. It's only 3 feet deep. And then he pops up and got onto his feet.
Yeah, that was...
drowned in 3 feet of water.
Bit embarrassing.
Mr. David Crowe, thank you very much for coming along. And it would be nice to have you back, because I would love to just carry on listening. I could have done 3 hours of just listening to stories.
Well, pleasure.
And I could have told you some of mine, which are boring, but that's brilliant.
Okay.
David, thank you very much.